Hi guys, it's Michelle, the Insulin Empress. I'm on my lunch break, but I already ate, so I figured I'd spend some time with you guys. I took some notes on 14 ways to reverse insulin resistance, and I want to share these with you. So, for the introduction, what is insulin resistance? It is when your body has too much insulin, and so your body's become resistant to it. You don't have to have high glucose levels for it. And if you get to the point where you have really high glucose levels, you can be insulin resistant if you have type 2 diabetes. But high sugar levels do not mean automatically that you have insulin resistance. You could be a type 1 diabetic where there's no insulin. So it matters very much that you check insulin levels. So sugar levels don't dictate whether you have insulin resistance or not. And also, you do not have to be overweight or fat to have insulin resistance. You can be on the skinnier side of things and have insulin resistance. So insulin resistance is not based on glucose levels or on how skinny or fat you are. It's something totally different. So the causes of insulin resistance, the main cause that is out there is a high carb diet. If you have a high carb diet, it's very, very likely that you'll develop insulin resistance. There are others like chronic inflammation and chronic stress. Both of those raise your counter-regulatory hormones, and the job of the counter-regulatory hormones is to raise sugar. When your sugar levels go up, so does insulin. When insulin is chronically elevated, it causes insulin resistance. So anything that causes insulin to be raised is going to cause insulin resistance. Like for instance, for me, I have a tumor that makes enough insulin for 20 people. So my insulin levels are crazy high. So then that causes insulin resistance. My diet could be on point, my stress levels could be on point, my inflammation level can be great, and I will still have insulin resistance because of this tumor. Some examples of chronic stress are poor sleep, poor relationships, whether it's work or family, poor mindset if you are dealing with depression or just don't have a very positive mindset. That can cause your stress levels to go up unnecessarily. If you deal with a lot of anxiety, that can cause your stress levels to go up unnecessarily, which will cause sugar levels to go up, which will cause insulin levels to go up, and which will lead to insulin resistance. Chronic inflammations, food sensitivities and allergies. You may not know that something is causing a low-level inflammation. For instance, say you have an allergy or a sensitivity to dairy. You get a few bubble guts every time you have ice cream, but nothing crazy. So you just keep eating it. You keep eating dairy even though you know you get a little diarrhea, you get a little gas, something. That sensitivity over time can cause elevated glucose levels, which cause elevated insulin levels, which cause insulin resistance. Autoimmune illnesses are very similar. They cause a low level of inflammation or sometimes a high level of inflammation. That inflammation triggers the counter-regulatory hormones, which then trigger sugar production, which then trigger insulin production, which then causes insulin resistance. You see the domino effect? There's a great book by my favorite scientist, Dr. Ben Bickman. It's called Why We Get Sick, and I'm actually currently reading that book right now. Fabulous book. I would recommend that you get it. I'll leave a link in the show notes if you want to get it. It's a really, really good book that kind of helps to understand how all of these sicknesses can come from a specific root cause, which is high insulin and insulin resistance. So on to number 1, 14 ways to reverse your insulin resistance. Number 1 is know your levels. You got to start from somewhere. You got to know what you're working with. Get your blood tested. Get a fasting insulin test, okay? A lot of doctors won't order this for you. Push and push and push and see if you can get somebody to do it for you. I had doctors who would not order me tests, and so I had to find other doctors that would. We live in an age now where you can get a lot of testing ordered by yourself. Different labs out there, you can go to their website and you can order the specific tests that you need, pay for them yourself, but you can get them done, and then you can go to their patient service centers and get the blood work done, and then you can get the results. You don't have to wait on your doctor. But if you have insurance and you want to go through your doctor, push for that. Alongside your fasting insulin levels, you want to start checking your glucose levels every day. Get a fingerstick monitor. My favorite is the Freestyle Precision Neo. I'm not sponsored by them, it's just what I use. I love the Freestyle Precision Neo. It seems to be pretty, no meter is 100% accurate. There is no such thing, but it is pretty close. In my opinion, my experience, it is the one I trust the most. Also get a ketone monitor. I use the Keto Mojo, and it does both sugar and insulin. But I just use it for ketones, and I get the Freestyle Precision Neo strips are a little bit cheaper for the glucose, so I do them separately that way. But you don't have to. You can have one meter that does both, and it tracks everything online. So Keto Mojo actually has an app, so you can track everything online, which makes it really nice and easy. You want to test these daily, especially in the beginning. If you can get your doctor to get you a CGM, a continual glucose monitor, get it. If you can't get it through your doctor, there's other programs out there like NutriSense, I think it's NutriSense, and then Levels also has a program where you can get a CGM. The FDA has also approved certain types of the main CGMs out there, like the Dexcom and the Libre has a CGM that's just for the general public. I think one of them is called the Stello, and I forget what the other one is called. But basically, it's a CGM that you can use. And what it does is it keeps track of your sugar 24/7 for the life of the CGM. The Libre lasts 14 days. The Dexcom lasts 10 days. So it keeps track 24/7, overnight, all the time. It is not 100% accurate. You still need a finger stick monitor to double check, because the finger stick monitor is more accurate than the CGM. There's a learning curve to CGMs, and I will make a video on CGM tips and tricks. But it's a good tool to have to kind of see what happens after you eat, what happens after you exercise, what happens overnight. So you can get a grip of what is happening in your body. And that'll help you to eventually reverse insulin resistance, because you're keeping track of things. So get a glucose monitor, get a ketone monitor, and if you can get a CGM, that's awesome. And do your best to track daily. The best time to test is at the end of a fasting period. So if you don't eat overnight, which you shouldn't, but let's say you're fasting overnight, in the morning before you have breakfast, that's when it's the best time to check your sugar and ketones to see where you are at. And the reason why we check ketones, I should do a little side note on this. The reason why we check ketones is because it kind of is a hack to see where your insulin levels are at. There is no at-home meter to check insulin levels. You have to go to the lab to get that drawn. So in order to kind of see where your insulin is at, you can check ketones, because if insulin is high, ketones are low. If insulin is low where it should be, then your ketones are going to be higher. And ketones are energy molecules made from the burning of fat. So if you have excess weight that you want to get rid of, ketones is the way to do it. Making ketones, so the more ketones you're making, the more fat you're burning. You cannot burn fat unless insulin is down. You could fast for days, you can run for miles, but you will not burn fat if insulin is elevated. Insulin absolutely clamps down on any kind of fat burning. So nothing else you do is going to fix that. You have to get insulin down. So checking your ketones helps you to see kind of where your insulin levels are, if they're high or low. They won't give you a number, but you won't be able to tell, is your insulin at 8 or is it at 10? Or you won't be able to tell that. You'll just be able to tell if it's high or low. Tip number 2 to reverse insulin resistance is do not drink your calories. Okay? Fruit and veggies were made to be eaten with all the fiber. I am not one that supports extra fiber. I know this is most health coaches will tell you get a lot of fiber. I disagree. The only time I think you should get a lot of fiber is if you're having diarrhea, number 1. Or number 2, you insist on eating lots of fruits and vegetables. If you're going to insist on eating lots of fruits and vegetables, please eat with the fiber. Please eat the fruit and the veggies how they came in nature, because that fiber helps to slow down the glucose spike. So the less glucose spikes, the less insulin is going to be eventually produced. So you don't drink your calories. Also, when you're drinking your calories instead of eating it with the fiber, it it shoots your sugar up so high, so fast, that it can cause something called reactive hypoglycemia, where it goes up high so fast, and then insulin overtakes it and causes a low, and it can cause reactive hypoglycemia, which in a couple hours it makes you hungrier than what you started with. So you don't want to drink your calories. And this goes for sodas. Now, everybody's at a different point in their journey with insulin resistance. Some people have been working on this for years and they actually have some habits already down. Some people are just starting. If you are a soda drinker, one of the quickest ways to make a decent change is by switching to diet. Just switching to diet is going to make a huge difference for you. If your glucose levels are high, just switching to diet is going to make a huge difference. It's not a permanent fix. It's a temporary fix, because the fake sugars in diet sodas, diet drinks, period, will spike an insane amount of insulin. But at least you won't have that high sugar spike. So if your sugars are elevated, diet sodas are a good way to go. If your sugars are not elevated, diet sodas are not good, because of the fact that the fake sugars will spike a ton of insulin, and if your sugar is already kind of low, it's going to make it go even lower. One of my clients would drink tea. She would make herself tea every day and sweeten it with Splenda, and her sugar levels weren't that high to begin with, and so it would cause her sugar levels to drop into the 50s, and she would have seizures. Okay, so diet soda is not a good choice if you already have low sugars. But if you have high sugars and you're a soda drinker, just switching to diet is going to make a huge difference. Now, tip number 3. I've been talking for so long and I'm still only on number 3. Okay. Sleep. Sleep is super important. You could have everything else on point, and if you're not sleeping right, I'm not saying sleeping a million hours, I'm saying if you're not getting the best quality sleep, everything is going to suffer. Your insulin resistance is going to continue to get worse despite all the other factors being great. So you want 7 to 9 hours on average, but the numbers don't matter as much as the quality. So ways to get quality sleep is for your room to be dark. You want your room to be as dark as possible, no lights shining in, no TV on, no phone, no scrolling on your phone. At least 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, you want to get rid of anything that emits blue light or any unnatural light. So the moon is fine, but anything else, you want to turn that off. If you got a street light that's, shining into your room, get some blackout curtains, because the darkness of your room is going to help set your circadian rhythm and help to release melatonin. You make melatonin during the daytime when you get sunlight, and we'll cover that in another tip. But you don't release it until it's dark. So you need it to be really dark. You also don't want to eat before bed. You want to give it at least 3 hours before bed, because when you eat, you spike insulin, you spike cortisol, and that is going to stop the release of melatonin. So even though if you've made all the melatonin throughout the day, you won't release it if you've eaten before bed, because you're turning on your digestive processes instead of your resting. There are some supplements that can help with sleep. If you are traveling or dealing with jet lag, or on temporary basis, you can use melatonin. L-theanine is another good supplement that you can use at night to help calm you down and get you ready for sleep. Magnesium glycinate is another one, but the only thing I would watch with magnesium glycinate is if you are already pretty regular, magnesium will make you have more loose stools, or make you go more often. So you might have to play with that one. Either take it earlier in the day or not take it at all. And there's other ways to get the magnesium. For instance, for me, I cannot take any kind of magnesium supplements because I will get disaster pants. So instead, I have a magnesium oil that I put on my skin, especially my legs, because that's where I usually, if I'm low on magnesium, I'll get cramps at night. And so if I put the magnesium oil on my skin, rub it in real good, then I will absorb the magnesium dermally and it won't affect my digestion, so I won't have disaster pants later. But I can still get the magnesium, and so that'll still help. It eventually gets in and it helps to calm things down. So that is another way to do it. Exercise. You want to get some kind of exercise if you want to get good sleep. When you move around during the daytime, if your activity level builds up something called adenosine. Adenosine is what helps you to know, it helps your body to know that you are sleepy, that you are tired. If you haven't built up enough adenosine, or if you have too much caffeine blocking adenosine, you're not going to feel tired enough to fall asleep. You're going to have a hard time falling asleep. So I recommend getting good amount of exercise every day to be able to build up the adenosine so that you will be tired so you can sleep. Deeper information on good quality sleep. There's a guy named Sean Stevenson who is a sleep expert. He wrote a book called Sleep Smarter, and I'll link that book in the show notes, and also I'll link just one of the podcasts that he did with Lewis Howes on sleep, and fabulous information. Is really good stuff, and he really digs into it a lot deeper. So if you want more information on good quality sleep, he's the guy to go to. Now, speaking on exercise, about building adenosine, we need to build adenosine, and that is with activity. I shoot for no less than 10,000 steps a day. I like to get closer to 20 if I can. So I'm walking at least 3 to 5 miles a day, plus I do a lot of other walking otherwise. But try to get in at least 10,000 steps. Try to be physically active throughout the day, not just all in one session and then nothing else the rest of the day. You want to be as active as possible, and there are a lot of creative ways to do that, but you want to add activity to your day. When you exercise, it pulls the glucose out of your blood and into your muscles without insulin needed. Okay, so when you're dealing with high glucose levels, one of the best ways to bring them down is to move, to exercise, to go for a walk, to dance. Any kind of movement will help. Your biggest muscles in your body are your legs and your butt. So moving your butt and moving your legs will definitely help the most when it comes to pulling that glucose out of your bloodstream and into your muscles. And when it does this, people often ask, when's the best time to walk for losing weight? And I always say, right after a meal, before what you ate becomes fat. So the best way to lose fat is to not let it get to fat by exercising as soon as you are done eating. So don't even clean the table, don't even wash the dishes. As soon as you're done eating, go for a walk. Do some kind of moderate activity for 15-20 minutes. Maybe even 10 if you can't fit in more than that. Any kind of activity will help pull some of that glucose out of your blood and keep your insulin spike from being as high. So if your insulin isn't spiking as high, it's not going to stay as chronically elevated, which is going to lead to a reversal of insulin resistance. So you want to exercise after you eat. Let's see here. After meals cardio. Best time for fat loss is before it gets stored. Build muscle. Muscle is a glucose sink. The more muscle you have, the more glucose you can handle. So build muscle. Focus on building muscle. For women, work those legs and that butt every day if you can. That's your gold in the area that will soak up that glucose. Building muscle will help you to be more insulin sensitive and more glucose tolerant. So, and don't forget to make it fun. Okay, do what you like. If you like ice skating, go ice skating or roller skating. If you like skateboarding, do that. If you like walking, I love walking, do that. If you like running, I don't like running, do that. Find ways to make it enjoyable. If you like dancing, dance, do whatever it takes to make it fun. Sometimes exercises work. Building muscle, going to the gym and lifting weights, yes, that is important. Sometimes you got to do the hard stuff, but it doesn't have to be constantly all the time the boring stuff. Find ways to mix it up and add some fun into it. And the last part for exercise is that it can be used as a hack for treats. Okay? You're on a clean diet, you're trying to be good, blah, 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 but you want a treat. I go to the beach with my kids sometimes, and we'll go to Santa Monica Pier, and they got really good ice cream there. Well, guess what? I want an ice cream cone. So we all get ice cream cones, and then we go for a walk. And we'll be walking for a good 30 minutes. That helps to use up that glucose that we're eating, puts it right into our muscles because we're using our muscles. Our leg and our butt muscles are being used while we're walking. And so that is a hack to enjoy a treat. Want a treat? You can do it when you're exercising. If you're sitting down and can't get up and walk, there is an exercise that you can do that will help to mobilize that glucose. So in your calves, there is a muscle called the soleus muscle, and it is a very glucose hungry muscle. So when you're moving it up and down, so as you're sitting at the table and you got your feet flat on the floor, you lift up your heels and then bring them down. So keep your toes planted on the floor, you lift up your heels and then back down. And just keep doing that over and over and over and over again. If you're at a desk, you're at a business meeting, and they have donuts, and you want a donut, have a donut. And then do those little exercises under the table. Now, if you have a business meeting every single day, twice a day, and they have donuts every single time, that's going to add up to some problems. Don't do that. But once in a blue moon, you want to have a little treat. There are ways to get around it, and exercise is a great hack to enjoy the treat without causing too much damage. Tip number 5 is ordered eating. Now, this tip I got from the Glucose Goddess. If you haven't heard of the Glucose Goddess, I will put a link down below. You can follow her. She's got a lot of great information. It's kind of where I got my name, the Insulin Empress, because she's the Glucose Goddess. But anyway, ordered eating means eating in an order that best keeps your insulin levels lower. So proteins and fats do not spike insulin. And I've done a video on proteins and why I say they don't spike insulin. And I did a little experiment and also posted a video on that. Proteins and fats first. Whenever you can. You want to do your proteins and fats without the carbs. So, for instance, an avocado has a lot of fat, but it also has some carbs. So you don't want to have it first. You want to have it in the middle. But you want to have your proteins and your fats first. Like, say, breakfast. You're going to have your eggs first. And then afterwards, you're going to have your avocado. And then afterwards, you're going to have your berries. So you're going to do it in order of proteins and fats first, then your complex carbs, and then any simple carbs. You want a piece of sourdough toast with your breakfast because you love sourdough? You can still have it, just have it at the very end of the meal. And have your proteins and your fats first, and then your fibrous veggies next. And then at the very end, have anything that is sweet or has high carbs. So if you're having something like with noodles, let's say you're having some kind of pasta or something. Actually, the Glucose Goddess had this example. So in her example, she said if you're going to have lasagna, you can't strip off the layers of noodles and find the meat and pull the meat out and eat that. It's ridiculous. That's not going to happen. No one's going to do that. So one way that you can mitigate that is by having a plate of vegetables before you have the lasagna. And that works for a lot of people. For the clients that I deal with who are super sensitive, that's not going to be enough. So for the clients that I work with, I recommend protein and fat first. Have some kind of protein and fat with every meal, but make it a good portion of your meal. Not just a little bit. I don't want you just having a quarter of your plate being protein and fat. I want half to 3/4 of your plate protein and fat. So, but at least half. So whatever you're eating, I want you to eat a good portion of your food. And it may take you 20 minutes. I tell people, have your protein and your fat first. And let's say it only takes you 10 minutes to eat that. I want you to wait. Give it another 10 minutes. By the 20-minute mark, your first insulin spike should be done. You have 2 insulin spikes with every meal, and you're going to spike enough for a full meal. So you want to keep that first insulin spike, even though it's a small one, you want to keep it as small as possible. And you do that by making sure you eat nothing but protein and fat for the first 20 minutes. Once that spike is done, it's done its thing, Now you can have your carbs, your complex carbs, your veggies and your avocado and stuff like that. And then at the very end, insulin's already starting to do its climb and it's going to come back down. That's when you can have your fruit, your piece of cake, your brownie, your sourdough bread, whatever it is that you want as a carb toward the very, very end, as a simple carb. You can have that at the very end, and that'll cause you to have the least effect on your sugar and your insulin levels. Your sugar levels will stay more stable. Whereas if you had, let's say if you had the fruit, let's say you had blueberries. Blueberries are not very high glycemic in the first place, but if you're insulin resistant, you're going to see a higher sugar spike from blueberries than a normal healthy person would. So if you eat the blueberries first, you'll see this high sugar spike, which will cause a high insulin spike, and then you'll crash before you start eating the rest of your food. But if you leave it toward the very end, you might get 5 or 10 point blip up a little bit, if at all. So by eating them last, it makes a big difference on how much glucose you produce and how much insulin you produce, and it keeps you more stable. And when you stay more stable and keep your levels lower, you are reversing insulin resistance. Another important part about eating is to make sure you're not drinking a lot of fluids with your meals. You want to only take a few sips with the whole meal. So you want to make sure that you're drinking water at least 30-45 minutes before a meal. If you want to drink a good amount of water, because I forgot to drink water all day, 45 minutes before your meal, go ahead and down some water. You're good. Then wait that nice 30-45 minutes until you start eating. Don't just, like when you go to a restaurant, what do? They give you a bunch of drinks while you're waiting for your food, and you fill your stomach up with a bunch of food, which has a bad effect. It actually dilutes your stomach acid, which means that, number one, if there's bacteria in your food that could harm you, it's going to get you, because stomach acid kills bad bacteria. But if your stomach acid is diluted, it's not going to be able to do its job. Number two, you need strong stomach acid to break down your fats and your proteins. If your stomach acid is diluted, guess what? Your $30 steak is going to be $30 poop because you're not breaking it down. Your intestines can't touch it if your stomach wasn't able to break it down in the first steps. And the same thing with fat. And it causes acid reflux on top of that. So you get indigestion if you drink too much with your meals. But that's what happens often, because this is kind of the model we're used to. You go to a restaurant, you order drinks, and you drink a bunch until the food comes, and it's a really, really bad thing to do. After you eat, you want to wait at least an hour before you start drinking a good amount of liquids. So you want to give your stomach the time to properly break down and digest your food, with the acid being as strong as it possibly can be to break down stuff and to kill any pathogens. So don't drink with your meals. You want to go as low carb as possible when you're reversing insulin resistance, because one of the things that causes insulin resistance is high carb. Your diet may be pretty good, but if you're dealing with chronic stress and chronic inflammation, maybe you have, it's just an example, a really, really stressful job, and you can't just quit the job. You have to keep that job. Your family depends on you. You can't quit the job. Diet is a much easier thing to change than your job. Or if it's a family dynamic, it's a lot easier to work on your diet than it is to work the family problems. So take the opportunity with the thing that is easier to do, and use that to get yourself healthier, so you can help, you can manage the other things that are causing, insulin resistance in your life. So like the chronic stress and the chronic inflammation. Diet is the easiest one to fix. It's often the hardest one because we're so addicted to our food. But I promise you, you will feel so much better if you keep your diet under control. Go low carb. It doesn't have to be forever, okay? Reversing insulin resistance isn't that for everything. You can do it. It takes some time, and it takes some discipline, and you can do it. I did it. So many other people do it. You can do it. Also, watch out for your food sensitivities. If you know you are sensitive to something, avoid that. Okay, you're sensitive to eggs, avoid it. You're sensitive to dairy, avoid it. You're sensitive to, certain fruits, avoid them. Don't don't cause that inflammation, that level of inflammation in your body because you want to have something. Just cut it out. And in that testing part, that step number 1 where we talked about testing, get your allergies, food sensitivities and allergies tested. Figure out what is causing inflammation in your body and cut those things out. Okay. Sadly, there are people who are allergic to chocolate. I know people who are allergic to mangoes. It's so sad, but it is what it is. So cut out the things that cause you digestive issues or cause inflammation, and you will find that you won't miss it so much, because you'll see that you'll start to look at that food or that item as, whenever I have that, I feel really ill, and I feel really ill for a while. And you learn to associate feeling ill instead of, oh, chocolate, I love chocolate, but I always feel bad after it. You don't think about the bad part, but if you start to focus on that, yes, that chocolate makes me feel bad every single time. Not like feel bad about yourself. I'm talking about like, let me give you an example. I don't handle pasteurized dairy very well. I handle raw dairy just fine, but pasteurized dairy gives me a problem. I love going to Starbucks and getting their mocha cookie crumble. But if I get it with dairy, with regular dairy, I am in pain for hours. I get the bubble guts like crazy, and I'm in pain for hours. So I don't do it. So I've learned to associate that if I get an iced coffee from Starbucks, I'm going to be in an insane amount of pain for hours afterwards. So I think of that as pain. I don't think of that as joy. And so you'll learn to do that with foods that you have sensitivities to. You'll learn to see, like, that causes me pain. I do not want it. It's not worth it. On to number 6. Prioritize fat in the beginning of your reversing insulin resistance journey. And this is one that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but it is actually really important. When you're eating carbs, even if you're insulin resistant, your main energy source is carbs. Protein is not an energy source. So upping the protein is not going to fix your energy crisis when you're lowering the carbs. If you're lowering the carbs, because carbs spike insulin and protein doesn't, and fat doesn't either, you have to replace energy for energy. You're not going to get energy from protein. So where are you going to get it from? You're going to get it from fat. Fat is an energy source. Your body has 2 energy sources, glucose and ketones. Glucose is made from carbs, all carbs, including vegetables. All carbs turn into glucose. Fats turn into ketones. So ketones are a fuel source for the body that the brain uses, that the heart uses, that so many different processes in our body use ketones. Mitochondria can use both glucose and ketones. But if you've been only burning glucose for a long time, your mitochondria has become glucose-centric. It's been just burning glucose, so its machinery is just focused on burning glucose. It takes some time to retrain it how to burn fat. And the only way to do that is to inundate the body with fat. Now, there's some problems with that, because when you haven't been consuming a lot of fat, because we were told that a high-fat diet is bad, get everything low-fat, we've been programmed to hate and fear fat. We have stayed away from it, and because we've stayed away from it, our bile production has downgraded, and our body's ability to use fat and turn it into ketones has downgraded. So if we feed ourselves a lot of fat and we can't really process it very well, it's going to cause disaster pants. You are going to get diarrhea. Pretty guaranteed you're going to get diarrhea as you increase your fat consumption, because your body isn't able to process it. But there's kind of no way to go around it. You have to inundate your cells with the fat to kind of help. It'll take forever to get yourself into any kind of fat burning mode, to get your body used to burning fat if you haven't gone through this stage, So this makes it happen faster by inundating yourself with more fat, so your body learns to use fat instead of glucose. If you're cutting the carbs down, cutting them down pretty low, then the body has no choice but to look for an alternate fuel source. During that time, you're going to feel some fatigue. You're going to go through what they call the keto flu. It's basically your body is trying to still use glucose while you're giving it fat. And so the transition stage is not very pleasant. This is why I recommend to my patients and my clients to consume a lot of things that have MCT. So a lot of fats that have MCT. MCT is a medium chain triglyceride. So it's a fat that is medium sized. There's long chain fats that take forever to break down. And there's short chain fats that your gut bacteria make. And then there's the medium ones that come in like butter and coconut oil and ghee and cheeses. Medium chain triglycerides, they get digested a little differently than most other fats. They go straight to your liver and get spun into ketones within like maybe half an hour. I've noticed when I take any kind of MCT, within half an hour, I get a nice little buzz. Maybe not really a buzz. It's like a happy feeling. It's not like caffeine energy. It's like a happy, calm sense of well-being, if that makes any sense. And so ketones is a fuel that the brain can use. So when you are suffering, going through that transition of going into keto, going into a low carb diet, MCTs will help because they will get processed really fast, and they will give you that mental clarity. They'll help a little bit with how you feel with your anxiety. Some of my clients, I had them eating up to a stick of butter a day, which sounds absolutely nuts, but it works. It helped to stave off their anxiety to where they can actually function. You're a parent, you got work, you got whatever's going on, you can't just stop your life. You got to keep going. So MCT, and there's multiple forms. You can order on Amazon, you can just eat butter, you can have a lot of hard cheeses. That's my favorite way to do it, is a lot of hard cheeses. There's coconut oil. You can do palm kernel oil. I'm allergic to coconut. Remember we're talking about the sensitivities? I'm sensitive to coconut. It breaks me out. So I can't have anything coconut, but I can have palm kernel oil. And palm kernel oil is an MCT oil. And if I take a tablespoon of that, it gives me that nice, calm, happy, I'm doing good feeling. And that helps when you're going through that transition. So getting fats in is important as you're transitioning, because while your insulin levels are high still, you have glycogen stores. Let me put it this way. So your body has energy. You have fat stores and you have glycogen stores. And in your glycogen stores, you have anywhere from 1,700 to 2,000 calories worth of emergency sugar just kind of stuffed in little pockets around your muscles to be used in an emergency basis. But the problem is if your insulin is elevated, which if you have insulin resistance, your insulin's elevated, you will not have access to those glycogen stores. It doesn't matter if you're running, doesn't matter if you're fasting, doesn't matter what you're doing, you're not going to get access to those glycogen stores because your insulin is high. Insulin's the gatekeeper. It blocks access. It also blocks access from fat. So you have thousands upon thousands of calories in your fat stores to give you energy to survive and thrive. But if insulin is elevated, you can't break down fat. So here you're going low carb, cutting all your energy off, and you can't use your glycogen stores and you can't use your own fat. So what are you stuck with? That's why it's important to have a high fat diet in the beginning of your insulin resistance journey, beginning of your low carb or keto diet journey, because of the fact that you got to have some fuel from somewhere. Okay, so until your insulin levels come down, when your insulin levels come down, then you can allow your body to burn its own fuel. As insulin levels come down, you'll be able to use your glycogen stores and you'll be able to use your own body fat for energy, and you can use less dietary fat. And so then you can focus more on protein and low carb veggies or whatever else that you want. So getting a lot of fat in the beginning helps you to get rid of that glucose dependency. It helps to teach your body how to use fats. Now, eventually, you don't want to just use fats and not know how to use carbs anymore. That is such a thing. That does happen. You want to become metabolically flexible, which means that you can use both fats and glucose. But in this meantime, especially if you're trying to lose weight, you want to become fat adapted, learn how to burn fat again before you go back the other direction. So once you've lost the weight that you want to, then you can migrate the other direction and get a nice healthy balance. A couple bits of information on fat it does not spike insulin. So you can have as much of it as you want. It does not spike insulin. Now you have fat with sugar, like if you have a very, an ice cream that has high fat content, you're going to spike insulin. I promise you. But fat by itself does not spike insulin. So you can eat a lot of it and you're totally cool. Another one, when you break down fat into ketones. Okay, when you have glucose in your body, if you've eaten glucose and you don't use it for energy, what happens to that glucose? It gets stored as fat. Ketones, when you break down fat and it turns to ketones, so your body makes more ketones than you're using for energy, what happens to those ketones? Do they get turned to fat? No. They get released as carbon dioxide when you breathe. 80% of it gets released, it gets wasted. It gets released out of your breath and 20% out of your urine. So your body doesn't hold on to those ketones, it just wastes them, which is so nice. The majority of the fat that you burn is often at night when you're sleeping. You're breathing out fat, carbon dioxide. So that's just a good point, a happy point to think about, is that any fat that you don't use for energy gets wasted. Any ketones that you produce, they don't go back to fat stores. They just get wasted, which is awesome. Number 7, fix your low stomach acid or low bile production. We kind of touched on this a little bit with the drinking too much water with meals. That can cause acid reflux, that can cause low stomach acid. When you don't have strong stomach acid, you can't break down that protein to repair your body. You can't break down that fat that also repairs the body. Cholesterol is huge for repair. Cholesterol is also the backbone of every single hormone in our body, including vitamin D. It's cholesterol. Vitamin D is cholesterol. It's not even made from cholesterol. It's cholesterol. Cholesterol that gets hit by the sun is vitamin D. It's an inactive form, but it's vitamin D. All your reproductive hormones are made with a cholesterol backbone. Cholesterol is super important. Your adrenaline, your cortisol, all of those hormones are made with cholesterol. Your immune system is made with cholesterol. You want a strong immune system, make sure your cholesterol is good, not low. You don't want it low. You want triglycerides to be low. That's fat. That's fat particles flowing around in your blood. You want that to be low. You want your HDL to be high, and LDL is good wherever it's at. You want it higher than lower, put it that way. But you want to fix your low stomach acid. If you have acid reflux, you most likely have low stomach acid. And I had this issue actually for years. I made the mistake of drinking alkaline water, not knowing what it does. Alkaline water is terrible. If you drink it, please throw it away. Please, please, please. It messes up your stomach so bad and can leave you a sitting duck for infections, which it happened to me. I now have H. pylori. That is a bacteria that makes its home in the lining of your stomach and then proceeds to keep your stomach acid low. So it secretes stuff that keeps your stomach acid low. So even though you're fighting it to bring your acid levels back up, it's going to fight you. And it's really hard to eradicate. Number 2 is SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I have that too. It is a bacteria, or a bunch of bacteria, that is colonizing your small intestine. That's not where they're supposed to be. You're supposed to have bacteria in your large intestine, in the lower part, not the top part. So when you have bacteria here, and especially an overgrowth of them, they tend to cause a lot of indigestion, cause bloating, cause all sorts of negative symptoms that you don't want. And they mess with your digestion in so many different ways. And they're a bitch to get rid of. They are so hard to get rid of, okay? It's not easy to get rid of SIBO, not easy to get rid of H. pylori. People suffer for years. I've had 2 treatments and it hasn't fixed it. So make sure that you keep your acid levels strong in your stomach. If you're dealing with acid reflux, you most likely have low stomach acid. I got this information from Dr. Eric Berg, and I'll put a link in the show notes from one of his videos. He's got lots of videos on this, but I'll just link one of his videos so you can start researching on that if you think you may have acid reflux and low stomach acid and what to do about it. I take betaine HCl. I started with about 5 pills per meal at the beginning of a meal, and that helped to, I haven't had a single acid reflux flare up since, and it's been a couple of years now. And it used to be that even water, just drinking water would give me acid reflux, would make me uncomfortable. I couldn't enjoy chocolate, I couldn't enjoy coffee, most food, just about any time I ate, I would have really, really bad acid reflux. I was constantly clearing my throat because I constantly had that burning. Because there's a little flap at the top of your stomach that only closes when the stomach acid is strong. So if it's not strong enough, it's going to stay open, which means all that acid, which is still quite strong, is going to splash up into your throat and causing all sorts of issues. So when your stomach acid is strong, that little flap closes, and so then you don't get acid reflux anymore. So betaine HCl, this is what was recommended by Dr. Eric Berg, betaine HCl and bile salts to help increase your bile production so that you can break down the fats, because you're going to need fats for energy, but you're not going to get energy from the fats if you can't break them down, and bile is what helps to break them down. So betaine HCl and bile salts. And also, if you won't be able to break down or absorb your minerals, iron, if you have an iron deficiency, or if you're anemic, okay, or you're low B12, any of these vitamin deficiencies are often caused by low stomach acid issues. When you can't break down these vitamins and minerals and you can't absorb them because of your stomach acid, then you have all these deficiencies and all these health issues that come from, you have constantly feeling dizzy and hungry for no reason, and with the low iron causes those. Having anemia is no joke, and you can pass out, which is dangerous. So make sure your stomach acid is strong so you can absorb all your minerals and your vitamins, so you can break down your protein and break down your fats, and so you can get all the food and all the supplements and everything that you're putting in there. You want it to go somewhere and do what it's supposed to do. You don't want to waste it, because otherwise you're just wasting money. So get your stomach acid strong where it needs to be. Ooh, almost thought I had to go back to work there for a minute, but it was just a false alarm. Number 8, blood work. We've already kind of talked about this. You want to check everything. You want to check your minerals, check your vitamins, check your iron levels. Make sure nothing is too high or too low. Because if it is, then you need to work on whatever that is. So like iron, vitamin D, sodium levels, especially when going low carb. That is a thing that is often missed. More people are catching on to this now, but you may need more salt. I had chronically low blood pressure, so when I went low carb, it made the situation kind of worse. And so I needed to add more salt. I hated salt. I was programmed to hate salt. Oh, you need to keep things low salt, low sodium, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I had learned not to like my foods very salty or whatever. So I had to learn to incorporate more salt into my diet. And one of the ways I do that is with bone broth. I do bone broth in the morning, and I do 10 ounces of bone broth to 10 ounces of hot water. So it's like it tastes like soup. When you add salt to it, it tastes like soup. Without the salt, it tastes like crap. But you add salt to it. So I do a teaspoon of salt, and I do the Redmond's real salt, or you can do pink Himalayan salt. Any of those salts will work. And it just tastes like soup to me. So it's a nice way to get some collagen, which is very healing to the gut, and to get salt. And it's kind of I'm trying to think of the word. It's an emotional thing. You're having a nice warm drink, just kind of makes you happy. It's soothing. That's the word I was looking for. Kind of like a nice hot cup of coffee in the morning. It's energizing. It's soothing. It's just part of your routine that makes you feel human. So bone broth for me in the morning is part of that soothing morning routine. And don't forget with that blood work to check for any allergies and sensitivities, and make sure you get those taken care of. So if there's environmental allergies, take care of those, because those allergies will cause chronic inflammation, which causes insulin resistance. So get any kind of allergies and sensitivities tested. And it's not just foods and not just straight environment. It could be metals. So finding out, like for me, I found out that I'm allergic to nickel. And it's really sad because I've been learning to play electric guitar. All the strings are made out of nickel. And so I would always have a little bit of a reaction just from playing guitar. So unfortunately, I'm allergic to playing guitar. They don't really make strings that are, I mean, they do make some strings, but they're not that great. So that's another thing I have to kind of look into. But that's an example of a sensitivity. Now, that's not that big of a deal. It's not going to cause chronic inflammation for me. But there are people who break out in massive eczema from jewelry. They can't do regular costume jewelry. They have to do only the really expensive metals, and even some of the expensive metals are not clean enough so that they don't have sensitivities. I remember reading a story about a lady who kept having massive eczema, and she couldn't figure out what it was. And one time she, didn't wear her jewelry for a couple weeks, and her eczema went away. And then when she felt better, felt like herself, put her jewelry back on, and bam, her eczema came right back. So she made that connection, and came to find out she was sensitive to some of the material in that jewelry, and it caused her to have eczema. So she was having an allergic skin reaction in other places, not by her earlobes, and other places on her body. It became a systemic inflammation due to some earrings. So learning what your sensitivities and allergies are is super, super important. Number 9 is fasting and intermittent fasting. I like what Dr. Ben Bickman says, the way he calls insulin resistance and the problems that we have now with metabolic syndrome. He calls them the plagues of prosperity. We have so much, and it causes us to be sick. We have access to food like never before, and it's actually making us sick. Constantly eating, we eat 3 meals a day plus snacks plus whatever. We have access to food, and highly processed food, that we don't even think about it. We're constantly munching on something, and it's keeping our insulin levels raised constantly, which leads to insulin resistance. So spending some time away from eating and consuming is actually very, very beneficial for us. Number one, it helps to bring the insulin levels down. It helps them to stay down for a while, so that you use up all the carbs that you've eaten, and then your body can turn into a fat burning session. Especially if you're trying to lose weight, you want to go into that fat burning mode. But you can't do that if you're constantly putting something in your mouth, even if it's just something simple as gum or candy, and it's sugar-free. Remember what I said about the sugar-free diet drinks? Sugar-free stuff often spikes insulin way more than regular sugar does. Okay? So, sugar-free does not mean insulin-free. It's going to affect your insulin levels, even if it's just a tiny bit. Every time you stick food or something in your mouth that your body recognizes as food, you're going to spike insulin for a full meal. It's expecting a full meal. Your body doesn't know snacks. It knows mealtime, period. And so when you're eating a small amount, and I've done videos on this, if you're going to eat a small amount, if you're going to have carbs, don't have a small amount. Commit. If you're going to have carbs, commit. Because if you eat a small amount, you're going to have a crazy fast sugar spike, because it's going to get absorbed really fast. Because there's nothing for your stomach to do. It's just got a little bit of something. So it's going to spike sugar levels really fast, and that's going to spike insulin like crazy, you're going to spike insulin for a full meal, which is going to totally overtake that little bit of sugar you got. And then it's going to cause reactive hypoglycemia, which is not fun. Very scary sometimes, actually. So you don't want to eat a small amount of anything. Gum, candy, all that kind of stuff. It actually is very hurtful in the long run because of what it does to insulin. So bottom line is, you want to take breaks from eating. And a good amount of time is 16 to 18 hours of fasting. Now, that may sound like a lot to some of you guys, but think about overnight. You're sleeping 8-9 hours. That's 8-9 hours of fasting you just did. So not everybody's in the same boat. Okay, some people are eating every 2 hours, even through the night, because they have symptoms and they don't know how to manage them. So they're eating based on how they feel. What you want to do is you want to go a little longer than you've gone before. If you only go 2 hours, go 3 hours. Okay? Then just slowly increase that as you're able to, as you gain that strength and that belief in your body. Because what it is you don't trust your body to take care of you. And I deal with my clients constantly with this issue. Trust your body. If you can sleep overnight and not have a problem, trust me, your body can handle it. You got extra chub on your body, trust me, your body can handle it. You're not going to die. Even if you feel like it, even if your symptoms are telling you you're going to die, you're not going to die. You're not going to pass out. Your body can handle it. But take it slowly. Don't do traumatic changes. Take it slowly, okay? You're doing 10 hours of fasting now. Let's increase it to 11. And then next week, maybe we'll try to push it to 12. The goal is to get to about 16 to 18 hours of fasting. So that way you still have 6 to 8 hours of eating. You can still fit 2 or 3 meals in that 6 to 8 hours of eating. And that way, when you keep your eating window smaller, you have more time for your insulin levels to be down. And when your insulin levels are down, then you can burn fat. Okay, that's what you want to do. When your insulin levels are down, you hit something called autophagy, where your body starts recycling any old broken parts. It starts to repair injuries, internal injuries that you've had, internal scars, whatever. It breaks your immune system. It renews your immune system. It breaks down all the white blood cells and makes them brand new and makes them stronger and better. And the same thing happens to the mitochondria too. The mitochondria in our body is what makes energy. It uses glucose or ketones. Well, that mitochondria can get old and dysfunctional. And so when you're fasting long enough, it's called mitophagy, where you're breaking down old mitochondria and making new ones, making fresh ones, which is something that you want. Another way to look at fasting is like when you're cooking. If you're cooking, because everybody's got to cook to make their food, if it's made, is going to make a mess. It has to be cooked and it's going to make a mess. So when you're cooking, you're making a mess. Fasting is that cleanup time. You need to do a cleanup every day. If you don't clean up every day, you're not going to have dishes for the next meal. Okay? You're not going to have clean dishes for the next day. So if you spend that time that is needed to clean up, then you'll have clean dishes for the next day. And so fasting is like that. It's a cleanup time. And just like in your own house, maybe you're just doing the dishes every day, but once a week you gotta clean the counters down, gotta clean the fridge, gotta throw old stuff out of the fridge, whatever. You need to do a deeper cleaning. So I recommend to my clients, as they learn to fast, 1 day a week, they try to do one a little longer, 24 to 36 hours. Try to do a little bit longer fast, up to, if they're strong enough and they're confident enough and they've been doing it for a while, up to 72 hours. And that's how I started doing 36-hour fasts on the weekend. And you don't have to do anything crazy, okay? You don't have to go exercise. What I did is I would start Friday night, around 9 p.m. So just in time for bed. Go to bed, sleep in as much as possible. Spend all day Saturday in bed watching TV. No snacks, no food, just water. So TV and the bathroom, and that was it. And then I slept again Saturday night, and then Sunday morning at 9 a.m. is when I broke my fast. And that 36 hours of fasting gave me like a new lease on life. Before I started the fasting, I was bedridden for several years, unable to take care of my young kids, unable to take care of myself. I wasn't able to work. I wasn't able to take care of the house. I wasn't able to do anything, okay? And fasting, this longer fasting sessions kind of gave me a reset button and gave me more life and more energy. And this week I was able to clean the house, and next week I was able to do more stuff, and eventually I was able to get work. I was able to focus on the kids. I was able to go on trips with the kids and do stuff with the kids, and where for several years I wasn't able to do anything. But the fasting kind of gave me that reset button. It cleaned shit up so that I could be able to do what I needed to do as a mom. So once a week, it's a good idea to push your fasting a little longer. So if you're only doing 12-hour fastings during the day, one day a week, go 14 hours or 16 hours. Go a little bit longer than what you're already doing. Just push yourself 1 day a week a little more than the rest of the other days. and eventually get to the point where you're doing a 24 or 36 or even a 72-hour fast once a week, depending on your condition and what's going on. Like for me, I needed a 72-hour fast every week because of the fact that I was gaining 7 to 10 pounds a week, even on a low-carb diet, even with intermittent fasting, because of the amount of insulin my tumor was producing. And so I had to do a 72-hour fast once a week. But not everybody has to do that. So just one longer fast during the week will help a lot. It will be like a reset button. Number 10 is support. Okay. Sometimes when we're chronically ill, we feel like we're all alone. And we've got nobody to help us. Sometimes we go to support groups. Sometimes we try to, family members, doctors, whatever. And we just can't seem to find anybody that's supporting us. For me, my doctor said there was nothing wrong with me. My own spouse, my husband, we're good now. But at that time, he was like, you're just making things up for attention. You're just being lazy and irresponsible. And you're being a bad mom. And you're damaging our kids. And it was very hurtful. And they're like, oh, you're just depressed. You need to just take some antidepressants or something and snap out of it. And I knew that's not what it was. I knew I was very sick, and I knew that the problems started internally in here, not in here. And so it was a very, very lonely time. So it is important to find support. You may not always find it, but look for it. There's support groups out there. I found a lot of help in the reactive hypoglycemia support group, as a lot of people who deal with insulin resistance deal with reactive hypoglycemia. Find family or friends, that will listen to you and will support you. Get counseling, especially if part of your problem is chronic stress, where you're dealing with bad family dynamics or a bad job dynamics. Get some counseling, get some therapy. It can help, okay? I've had to go through therapy before, and it helps so much. And also look for a coach. That's one of the things that I do, is I help coach people on their journey dealing with insulin resistance, recovering from insulin resistance. Sometimes you just need somebody there to encourage you and to hold your hand, and that is what I do. I am a coach that helps people reverse insulin resistance. And so if you feel like you need a coach and you think that I could help you, don't hesitate to reach out. I love helping people. I love seeing progress. My gift is seeing people's potential. I see people's potential even when they don't see it themselves. I see the future. I see, where you could go and what you can accomplish. And I believe in you. Like, I truly believe in you. And I believe in myself, which is why I've gone from where I was, bedridden and fatigued and overweight, obese even, and just struggling so hard. And I have such a bright future ahead of me. So I believe in me. I believe in you. And together we can make it through. Oh, look at that. I rhymed. I'm a poet and didn't know it. Find some support. Super important. Number 11, hygiene. I know this may sound like duh to most people, but when you've been chronically ill, and those who have been chronically ill understand this, you get to a point where you stop caring for yourself. You are just so exhausted just trying to survive that you often neglect yourself. And it's not that you mean to. You just don't have the energy to do it. You feel like, what's the point? Take care of yourself. It does so much for your mental health. When your mental health is better, you're able to make better decisions. You'll be able to take better care of yourself. It just matters a lot. It doesn't have to be just hair, nails, spa day, stuff like that. It's just taking a shower. Just take a shower. Rest. Sometimes you just need rest. Sometimes the self-care that you need is just rest. Allow yourself time to be at your best. Take the time to take a shower, to do your hair, to make yourself feel good. Wear the clothes that put a pep in your step, that make you feel good about yourself. Take the time to do that. I like dressing up sometimes in fancy gowns, even if I'm just wearing it around the house for the heck of it. It helps. All right, guys, I had to move the car because the sun was shooting right through the window, and it was messing up my video, and it was shining crazy. Okay, back on number 11, hygiene. The last thing is get help. Allow people to help you. And sometimes that is the hardest thing to do. For me, it was the hardest thing to do, is to accept help, to ask for help. I felt like I was failing somehow, like it was my fault that things weren't running the way they should have been. And so I was really afraid to ask for help, and I ended up hurting myself more in the long run by not asking for help. But you need help. Get help. Allow people to help you. Friends, family, neighbors, anybody. Allow them to help you. And ask for help. Ask for help. You might find a couple of people who talk shit to you, and I had that. I asked for help one time, and somebody tried to remind me of my blessings. I'm like, look, I already know what I'm blessed with. I just need some freaking help so I can take a shower. Okay? So I can feel human again. Because when you're chronically sick, just taking a shower makes such a big difference. And when you have little kids, it's the hardest thing. You're constantly giving to your kids and taking care of your kids, and you don't take care of yourself, and eventually going to get run down. So ask for help. And even if you get a few people who are rude, ignore them. Continue to ask for help. Eventually you'll find somebody with a good heart who'll be willing to come and watch the kids for a few minutes so you can take a shower, or so you can get some project done, or whatever it is that you need to feel human. Ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And now number 12 is your vision. Not like your ability to see, but your vision for the future. Sometimes when you're chronically ill, you lose sight of who you are and what you want out of life. You forget about your dreams. And so I think it's important to remind yourself what your dreams were, what they are now, because sometimes your dreams change, Imagine what you want your life to be like, where you want to be in life. And start to envision those things. Start to dream of those things. Think of the things that you'll do when you're healthy, when you're not dealing with insulin resistance anymore, when you're not having to deal with... A lot of people that deal with reactive hypoglycemia due to insulin resistance have a fear of leaving the house. They feel like they can't go anywhere because they're afraid they're going to have a hypoglycemic event. Most of the time they don't realize that their own food is causing their hypoglycemic event, but still, they live in this fear of never being able to go out and enjoy themselves or leave the house and feeling secure in their own body. And so try to imagine what that's going to be like when you don't have an illness holding you back. The things that you want to do, the energy that you'll have to do the things you want to do, maybe the clothes that you'll be able to fit in. That was one thing for me. I had all these cute clothes that I couldn't fit in, and that's still a goal, because I still have cute clothes that I can't fit in at the moment, but I'm getting there. And so think of vacations that maybe you wanted to go on that you just didn't get a chance to, because you were just too sick and too tired, or maybe if you were as bad as me, where you were bedridden, you couldn't even work to make the money to go on a vacation, And eventually, when I started fasting and started fixing my health, I made a goal for myself. I actually said that if I got to a certain weight, a certain goal weight, that I deserved a trip to the Bahamas. I've always wanted to go, never got a chance to go. Didn't have a job, okay? Was still bedridden at the time, but I made myself a goal, something to look forward to. It took me 2 years, but I did it, and I went to the Bahamas. Actually, was it the 7th? I think it was this day. On this day, 7 years ago, I went to the Bahamas, and it was glorious. I went by myself, no kids, no husband. It was great. It was fabulous, and it was just so amazing to be able to do something that I wanted to do for so long. Because I started learning how to fast and how to manage my reactive hypoglycemia and how to manage my insulin resistance, I was able to make myself healthier, give myself more energy, and eventually I was able to get out of the house. I was able to start work. I started working part-time and then full-time, and then I was able to achieve even more of my goals. I ended up getting my dream car. I ended up getting the job that I have now that I was wanting at the time. And so I was making things happen because I was taking care of my health. I put myself first. There's a saying that if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll have nothing but time for your illness. When you get ill, you have no time for anything else except for managing your illness. And that's where I was at. I couldn't do anything because my illness had me completely stopped. My life completely stopped. And so when I was taking care of my health, now I started having time for other things, the things that I wanted to do to enjoy life. So get a vision, make a vision board, get a paper and put some pictures on it, or do it online if it's easier, and put some pictures together, or maybe even just take screenshots of stuff that motivate you and stuff that you are looking forward to, and put it in a folder on your phone and that you look through a lot to help remind you of all the things that you're going to enjoy as you get healthier, and to kind of give you something to look forward to. Keep a vision of the future, of the things that you want in front of you as often as possible to give you that motivation. Who is it? Was it Zig Ziglar that said that motivation doesn't last, just like bathing, and so that's why it's recommended daily. If you bathe today, that's not going to be enough for tomorrow. You're going to have to bathe tomorrow as well. So today's motivation isn't going to last tomorrow. You're going to have motivation for tomorrow on its own. So having, if you're a visual person like me, having a folder with pictures of all the things that you want to eventually accomplish, or eventually do, or enjoy, or experience, or whatever it is, that keeping that in front of your eyes, in front of your mental state, often will definitely help with your overall healing. The insulin resistance and the mental health work together. They are not separate. Number 13, kind of alongside that, is spirituality. So spirituality doesn't mean you need to go to church, you need to believe in God, none of that stuff. You have your own set of moral beliefs and whatever you believe about God or deity or whatever. That's up to you. But what I'm talking about when it comes to spirituality is you're more like a mindset. Having a mindset of gratitude. Being focused on positive things instead of negative. Practicing breathing methods so that you keep your anxiety and your fear down. Whenever you're finding yourself out of control or spiraling, find ways to center yourself, to bring yourself in control. And I learned this in our health sciences class last week. The breathing square. So basically, you breathe in for 4 seconds, then you hold it for 4 seconds, then you breathe out for 4 seconds, and then you hold it for 4 seconds. And that was another false alarm. So again, breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, letting it out for 4 seconds, and then holding it for 4 seconds. And of course, you don't have to do it really, really slow in the beginning as you're learning to do that. So I'm not doing it right. Let's try that again. So you go. So that's basically how you do it. So you go in for 4 seconds, you hold it. And you leave it out, let it out for 4 seconds, and then you hold it. And doing that is supposed to help slow your heart rate, slow your thoughts, slow your breathing, slow everything to kind of calm you down. So if you find yourself spiraling out of control, dealing with anxiety, learning breathing methods like that will help. But developing a mindset of gratitude, developing these coping skills for dealing with stress are very important if you want to be able to balance out the rest of the things in your life. Your health and your mental state and your spiritual state, they're all connected. You can't, have everything else okay and one be totally a mess and not have to mess with it. You have to fix all of them. They all need to be in balance. And so it's important to address the spirituality. If you can get your diet on point, but you have this constant negative mindset, you're not going to do very well for very long. You're going to suffer with chronic stress, and it's eventually going to get you. It will. Eventually it will. And the last one, but not least, and these are, by the way, not in any particular order. They're just in the order of whatever popped in my head, so I just wrote them down. Sunlight. Direct sunlight can lower insulin levels. I noticed this when I was living in Florida, and I was getting 2 hours of direct sunlight every day. I was going out riding my tricycle. I don't have a bike. I'm against the 2 wheels. I'm a fan of the 3 wheels. And not a sitting up tricycle, but like a recumbent tricycle where you're laying back and being, just chilling like a villain. And I loved riding a tricycle through Florida. It's green everywhere. There's water everywhere. There's alligators. Alligators are not scary, but that's my opinion. They're afraid of humans, so it's very hard to even get close to one. I mean, not that I try to get close to one, but as soon as they sense a human around, they just jump in the water. They run away. So, but I loved Florida. And I loved riding my tricycle. And I didn't have to start work till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had all mid-morning to go riding around. And I would spend a good couple hours in the sun every day. And I noticed, I had an indoor bike too, like one that I put in front of my TV. I noticed that if I had the same sleep, ate the same food, and my exercise was the same, I would bike for 2 hours. If I was outside, I burned more fat when I was doing my exercise outside as opposed to indoors. Being in the direct sunlight helped me to burn more fat and make more ketones. I saw that I wonder if there is something to this. So I did a little research, and I found a couple articles that said that they did these experiments with diabetics, type 2 diabetics, so insulin-resistant diabetics, and direct sunlight, like the kind I'm getting right now through the trees, actually helped improve both cholesterol and insulin levels. So direct sunlight helps in a lot of ways. So 1, it helps to lower insulin. 2, it increases your vitamin D production because vitamin D is cholesterol. So the cholesterol in your skin, when the sun hits it, turns into an inactive form of vitamin D. And so if you want extra vitamin D, which if you go get your vitamin D levels checked, I bet you most of you guys are low. You need vitamin D for a lot of different reasons, which I'll do a video on vitamin D in the future. But it is definitely needed, especially for helping get calcium into your bones as opposed to letting it hang out in your blood and having it wreak havoc on your arteries. You want it in your bones. And vitamin D helps with that absorption. On top of that, you get all these happy hormones that you get produced from exposure to sunlight. You get dopamine and serotonin. Melatonin that helps you to get good night's sleep is made by having exposure to sunlight during the daytime. You need sunlight. Sunlight is very important. And just how fitting that the sun is beaming right on me right now. This is great. So that is my 14 ways to reverse insulin resistance. There might be a few more tips, but this is what I came up with off the top of my head. And I knew these are important hacks to help people get, a grip of their life and reverse their insulin resistance and get healthier. So I hope that these tips helped you. Don't try to do them all at once because you'll get overwhelmed. Focus on where you are at, depending on what I've said here. Focus on where you're at and make little changes, okay? If you're drinking a bunch of soda, go to diet. If you're drinking a lot of diet soda and your sugars are kind of low, go with non-sugared tea or just drink water. Just drink water. Water is the best. If you're fasting 5 hours right now between meals, try 6. Push for 6. Just do things in incrementation. And maybe you can't focus on all the things. Focus on one thing. Just focus on your sleep. Focus on one thing that you find not too difficult and not too overwhelming. Okay? Because when you're not healthy, when your mind is not in a good, balanced state, it's going to be overwhelming. So choose one. And if you feel like you need extra help, you need somebody to hold your hand and to encourage you and to remind you and to kind of take you every step of the way, feel free to reach out. There are plenty of other coaches out there that can help you, or you can see if I can help you. You can send me a message or leave me a comment. Actually, leave me a comment and I will find a way to get in contact with you, because I'm still new to this whole YouTube stuff. And I've been doing coaching for the last 3 years or so, and I've been doing it pro bono. But I'm changing things up now to where I'm gonna I want to start charging people. So it's really weird for me to charge people, because I just haven't been for the longest time. I want to help people, but I spend a lot of time with people. When I am helping you, I spend a lot of time with you. We're back and forth all day long as it takes to help you feel confident that your body can take care of itself, that you've got this, that you can do it, and that you understand all the different tests and what they mean. And I can help. If you'll have me, I would love to help you reverse your insulin resistance. Just let me know if I can help. I'm working on a website right now. So as I'm recording this video, I only have my website partially done, but I will have it up to a point where I will have my Patreon listed and method of payments, and I'll have the different options of help that you can get from me. Just off the top of my head, I know I want to offer a day of back and forth communication, so you can see if I will be the right fit for you. And I want to charge $20 for that back and forth interaction. So all day, since I still work a 9 to 5, I may not be able to get back to you immediately as soon as you leave me a message. So to give that time, the 24 hours, so we can go back and forth and you can ask me questions and I can answer them for you. And it doesn't have to be within an hour. Or I like having a little bit more flexibility with time, since I have obligations and I'm sure you have obligations. You may not be able to answer back as soon as I'm available. So the 24 hours time is plenty of time to be able to ask all the questions that you feel are necessary to see if I'm a good fit for you. Then I will have an option for a whole week of help. There's been some clients that all I've needed to help them for is about a week. We went over their test results. I told them basically some of the same stuff that I just shared with you guys, and they were able to take off running with it, and they did just fine. Then there's others that needed my help for a whole month, where they needed somebody to hold their hand through every single step, because it is scary sometimes. Going through the symptoms that you feel every day, you don't know if you're dying or what is happening. And so you need someone to reassure you what's going on. Okay. So I will be charging $200 for that package of pretty much unlimited support for a whole month. Every day, conversations happening all day long. As you need me, I will be there. I may not answer immediately because I am working, but within the hour I should get back to you. And most of my clients only need 1 to 3 months of coaching services, and then they're fine on their own afterwards. But that all depends on you guys and where you're at and how much help you need. And there's no limit in either direction. So for right now, the options are a 1 day for $20, all day communication, a week for $100, all day communication for the whole week, and then a month of communication for $200 all month long. Just whenever you need me, I'm there to help. So if I can be of service to you, let me know. Otherwise, I hope the information in these 14 ways to reverse insulin resistance has been helpful. If you guys have any tips that you have learned in your experience with reversing insulin resistance and you're watching this video, feel free to share them. We don't gatekeep. We share with others, what we've learned, because I had to learn on my own. I didn't have anybody to teach me. I had some YouTube help and just a lot of research on my part, and so I was able to learn a lot of stuff. And that's why I'm sharing it with you guys, because it took me a long time to get my insulin resistance under control, and I'm still dealing with it because I still have the tumor, but I don't want you guys to have to take years to reverse insulin resistance. The fastest I've seen it done is 3 months. I had a client who had insulin levels at 16, and it's supposed to be around 5, and in 3 months she got it down to 6. Very impressed. Very impressive. So I've seen it done pretty fast, and I believe you can do it too. Everybody's at a different point in the amount of damage that's happened in their body and what the root cause is, but I believe it can be done. And so I hope that this video helped. I hope these tips help. Let me know what your experience is. Share anything you want to share in the comments below. I will read all the comments. I appreciate you stopping by and listening to my videos. I hope that I can bring some kind of enlightenment, some kind of help, and optimism to your journey of getting healthier. So I will see you guys in the next video for sure.